from the institute. They actually taught us how to build a company from day one.
If you're not able to go through the program and use it to, let's say, literally accelerate your processes, if you're not ready to have professional level conversations and run, let's say, a structured sales process, then it's probably too early. It's probably not the right fit. We entered the program with a Japanese kabushiki gaisha or KK entity, and that was really the wrong structure to take full advantage of the Alchemist program.
So one tips, go to the accelerators who actually will drop people in the process, because that will give you pressure to focus on the programs. Because it's not about getting nice, it's not getting comfortable, it's getting pressures from the program that push you forward.
Purpose of an accelerator is to hone your pitch, to really craft your narrative in a cohesive way. So the downside of these programs, there are diverse coaches, and I got a lot of conflicting advice. A lot of people would say, do this, and then the next coach would say almost the complete opposite. 90% of my memory of the program was redoing the pitch over and over and over again.
You cannot build a startup by yourself. That's absolutely not possible. You have to have a co-founder. You want to be recognized as like a famous graduate from a famous accelerator. So, the name, of course, is a very big influence.
You're evaluating an accelerator. I think the top criteria are the alumni network, the coaches, essentially the database that they create of extremely valuable contacts and potential to give you referrals.
One of the important things to mention there is you shouldn't choose an accelerator program just because it's so popular or it has a huge brand or something like this. One of the important criteria there is like, does this accelerator program has a good roots in your local region? So are they using the local resources and local network? Minasan, thanks for joining us today. Today we are going to explore a key question that many founders ask actually. Do accelerator programs worth it or not? All right, it's a very controversial topic. Has it real value? Is it worth it? So it works. Do they able to deliver their promises or not? All right. This is the topic today. That I have a panel of one of them is our graduate, Shaoxi, and who also joined the other programs as well. And also Evan. Evan is our mentor, but also had his own startup company as well. Recently launched last year, and also joined a program called Alchemist, and graduated and get funded from there as well. My name is Erdinç, and I'm part of leading this accelerator program called Founder Institute. This is a joint program in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. It's an international program, English speaking. So I've been living here last 6 years. I'm also an active entrepreneur who supports entrepreneurs actually. My specialty is around GTM, go-to-market and sales and partnership and so on. Let's get started. So today's agenda is going to be basically a panel talk, but we are inviting you to join the discussion. I'm going to have some preset questions. Then after that, we're going to prioritize your questions maybe the halfway through. So let me quickly introduce the organizer, the Founder Institute that I'm running here. FI is the world's largest early stage accelerator program across 200 cities and 100 countries in the world. We have a portfolio of 8,000 startup companies. It's originally born in the US, in Silicon Valley, but we brought FI to Japan last 3 years ago. So this is how FI works. We have 35,000 mentors across the world. Also, we have a program for aspiring investors to launch funds. So it's been also getting huge traction since inception of 4 years ago only. We have launched 600 funds who get commitment $1.5 billion in commitments so far. It's called VC Lab, is by Decile Group, which is the sibling company of the FI. So these are our proud mentors. We have actually already exceeded 200 mentors in Japan. Most mentors are experienced entrepreneurs, mostly bilinguals, and half local Japanese nationals and other half foreigners, locals, and so on. If you're also looking for more mentors to expand our mentor pool, partners, obviously Venture Cafe is one of the best supporters since the beginning of this program here. I really appreciate it that they believe us, the supporters. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to introduce our speakers.
All right. Thanks, Erdinch, and thank you, everybody. I've spent most of my career in Japan, and now half of my life. 22 years ago, I first came here. So that tells you how old I am. During that process, I've started now 4 startups, co-founded 4 startups. And I counted the other day, I've helped 6 scale-up companies to enter the Japanese market. So when I first came to Japan, it was with a marketing idea. I'm from Canada. I was marketing Canadian seafood. That led to creating a marketing agency and then doing a bunch of SaaS spin-offs off that and kind of specializing in ad tech and martech and bringing those type of solutions to the Japanese market. I had the ability to go, really the opportunity to go to Silicon Valley and startup hubs like Tel Aviv and learn from some really, really good mentors. And then I tried to take that methodology that I'd learned by going through their sales and marketing training and apply it to the Japanese market and hybridize it in a way that was meaningful for the Japanese market. One of the first things I had to do was take the sales cycles that Silicon Valley is used to and slow those down to about quarter speed so that they would work in this market and go through the Nemowashi and Ringisho, stakeholder alignment process. I feel like I've developed a good playbook for the Japanese market, and I'm always very eager to share that. So if anybody has any questions about how I've run go-to-market, sales and marketing strategies in Japan, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm always really eager to share. So a year ago, I helped to co-found Kimaru, and I am the CRO, or Chief Revenue Officer. So I oversee sales and marketing combined functions. And we are an early stage startup. What we do is help try to solve the per hour productivity issue. People who've been in Japan for a while probably know that Japan is kind of suffering from a lot of legacy systems that were designed around rules-based process management. That worked great in the industrial age when overall cycles were slower and there were a lot of people to do a lot of these, let's say, kind of manual tasks. That's no longer the case. There are no longer enough people. The working population is declining and business cycles have sped up. Really, in the information age, people need to move faster and move more efficiently. We started trying to solve this problem for Japan, and then we found that it exists globally across supply chain and retail. So we're now trying to solve this problem using agentic AI, what we call decision intelligence agents, for retail supply chain, both in Japan and globally.
Thank you, Evan. How about Xiaoxi?
Hi, I'm Xiaoxi from IWG. So the reason why I'm here, because everything can actually know, I'm a frequent accelerator attenders. I graduated from Founder Institute since last August. I entered Japan and graduate successfully get invest in this year, January this year. And our company, AWG, focus on medical AI. So I work in medical AI since 2017, where I work for the companies and building the hospitals. And we start our own journey about 3 years and a half ago. So we focus on using AI technology to rebuild the entire workflow within the clinics, which they are still using CDM fax today, which is amazing. And I attend a lot of accelerators, Founder Institute, Enters, even some JETRO program. The first accelerator I actually attended was here in CIC with the JETRO and CIC and also Mass Challenge in Boston.
Thank you so much for introducing, guys. So the first, the topic is the Accelerators War 1.0. I know it's a pretty catchy title, very controversial title. We purposely choose this one, So I'd like to know the historical programs that you have joined so far first, and then we will dive into the more, is it beneficial for you and things like that. Let's go with like rolling style, a run style. Evan, so have you ever joined another accelerator program?
Yeah, so a bit more background. Kimaru, we just went through the Alchemist Accelerator program, which was the inaugural program in Japan. So we are proud graduates of Class 1. That was personally my first time to go through an accelerator, but for 3 years now, I've been a mentor, advisor in the Founder Institute. So I guess together we've probably reviewed, 200 pitches by now, something like that. I had some preconceived ideas about what an accelerator program would be like and how I could probably, or how we could get the most benefit from it. And some of those were wrong, and we'll talk about those a little bit more, I think. But to actually go through the program myself, Alchemist was the first.
For me, well, I actually entered a lot of for the general one who has like background knowledges. The Founder Institute was more like a day zero for the founder who has no idea what the startup should be. And the Antler was quite a little bit similar, but more about the investment and progressing stuff like that. We also attended some specific area program, like for example, we attended a lot of JETRO program that focus on like the recent one we just graduated from JETRO and the Mayo Clinics, which focus on medical healthcare, AI, and also the CIC one I just joined a couple of years ago was about how to set up shops in the United States. They go through the entire process of even building company, sales, legal stuff. So I attend a lot of program. I attend a program mainly for three reasons. A, to learn something, either to learn the general ideas or specific knowledge. B, to build the networks. I know a lot of people, a lot of good friends from joining the program. And the C, well, actually, I want to being criticized by others because like when you do your own startups, you feel like you're in control, like you know everything. And sometimes you must hear some opinions from others that you probably should do this or you probably should do that. Sometimes the opinion is right, sometimes it's wrong, but it's always better to hear feedbacks from someone else.
Yeah, that's great. Xiaoxi, how many of the programs that you had joined was equity-based programs? FI, Antler, anything else?
That's it. Antler and Founder Institute.
Right.
The other, I called it tax refund.
So guys, as set up the context here, the accelerator that we're using, actually the term accelerator refers to equity-based programs. You join in a program that generally like 3 to 4 months-ish and limited time offer. So you take your startup company from some certain point to the new heights, right? So generally, it's proper accelerators actually equity based because they invest into your company for the very future of the time. So we're gonna talk more on that later. But okay, let's go to the next one. So you actually a little bit tap into like why you attended the program, right? So you already talked about that. So actually, that was my next question. So maybe we can continue with the Evan. So what was the reason in the first place to join the program?
Well, you mentioned equity a minute ago. Because this was the inaugural program in Japan, we didn't know what to expect in terms of equity in the final offer. So that wasn't so much of a deciding factor. We thought that there might be some equity, but we applied, first of all, because we felt that the Alchemist program was perfectly aligned with our goals. We are a B2B enterprise software, and Alchemist focuses specifically on helping B2B enterprise software companies to hit their milestones and achieve rocket ship growth. So when we looked at the program, first of all, we were really impressed with how it was presented. We saw a pitch about the program itself, and then we had an opportunity to talk to essentially the founders of the program, Ian and then the managing director of the program, Ryoko. They were incredibly receptive and helpful and open. They did a Q&A session when I know that they were overloaded with applications, and Yoko in particular answered every question that we had. So because we saw that alignment, we didn't apply to any other programs. We only thought, okay, Alchemist is the right fit for us. Let's apply to them. Then after the application process, we got the offer and we were pleasantly surprised. The equity was more than I expected, at least, and the terms were better than I expected. So we were very happily surprised with that.
Xiaoxi, do you want to add anything else?
Yes. So we doesn't join the program because of the equity and the stuff, but it's always nice to have. But I think the one experience that I want to share was the reason that I joined the program. For example, the CIC one I joined right here, is about to taught us to build how to build a business in United States. And the program is excellent, one of the best programs we ever attend. But the result was that we realized that we're too early for US market. And we decided, okay, we learned a lot. But the result is we're not going to build a company in US just yet. So that was like a very interesting turns. But on the other side, from the institute, they actually taught us how to build a company from day one. Some of the knowledge I already know, some actually I don't know. So it's like a self-check for me to see, as a founder, I still doesn't think that angle or from that directions, and that actually value more than just money and other stuff.
So what level you need to be in order to join an accelerator program? Let's start with the level of readiness in order to be able to join accelerator program.
It depends on the program. Our experience, of course, was the Alchemist program. And with Alchemist, I think that everybody in our class 1 cohort was what I would qualify as being either mid-career or senior professionals. There was really nobody in our cohort who was really early in their career. So they had worked corporate side or they'd been through startups before. Myself and my co-founders had done it 3 or 4 times before. And so we were all quite, I would say, experienced. And that's probably the right fit for Alchemist, which again is a B2B focused startup. If you're not able to go through the program and use it to, let's say, literally accelerate your processes, if you're not ready to have professional level conversations and run, let's say, a structured sales process, then it's probably too early. It's probably not the right fit. Whereas FI, I think, is much better for first-time founders or people who maybe haven't had quite that career, like let's say early to mid-level experience.
So for your case, what level needed to be able to join?
Yeah, actually about the FI, I think FI will do a very good job that none other accelerator do, was you actually divided founders into different groups, like the starter one and also the tracking ones. The tracking one with the more experience or more tractions, and the starter one was like basic ideas, right? So sometimes I join other programs, I actually witness very first-time founders and all very experienced founders, and the programmer try to balance the experience between that and doesn't really work out. But separating those groups actually it is good to see. When I joined the FI, actually I was in tracking groups, right? So my peers, my group members, are all more experienced guys. So when we talk to the things, people has the common problem, common benefit that we can share. We encounter this problem. I have experienced it in this, on that. This problem will not appear unless you go to that level. If you're only a beginners, you have to solve some elementary problem. You're not there yet. So we kind of separate that.
Maybe I should a little bit introduce more about our program here because it's kind of necessary. So positioning ourselves as the earliest, what that means actually, you don't even have to be a full-time on your startup company yet. That's one of the main criteria. You don't even need an incorporation. No company, nothing. Just an idea is okay to be apply. But we have a selection process which actually natural because we want to work with the most motivated people. So, and there is a payment there, right? This is one of the most asked questions actually. So it's around $600. It's dependent on the country the program's in, actually adjusted their local economy. So if we are on a course, we are not a course at all, we would accept everyone enrollment, right? So we only choose a 10 to 20%. We have to choose the people who is really motivated, and then money actually gives a small obstacle that we can see the people who's really motivated to get into the program, and it's refundable, by the way, first 2 weeks at least. But it's an equity-based program. If you approach it at the end, we sign an agreement together with you, 2.5% equity, that gives us a future rise of future investment. So actually, it's a delayed process of making investment. So a bit different product in the market, but it's still very, very early stage focused. But people who with idea that is significant progress also sometimes join us. A bit different model than others. So we don't provide an investment term during the program, but we sign an agreement that we would do in the future that gives a reserved right, 2.5%.
Let me jump in on that for a sec. I actually get asked that a lot because I'm a mentor at the Founder Institute. A lot of early stage entrepreneurs ask me, is the program fee worth it? And My answer is always that, yeah, we do our best to make it worth it. So when we give coaching feedback, the pitch advice, I certainly do my best to make it good advice. Do you remember the advice I gave on your pitch?
Yeah, because you mentioned about the mobile version, right? So
we talked about.
Yeah.
I think I maybe talked about the story of going to my dentist and he's still using Windows XP.
Exactly.
So maybe you have to skip from desktop to tablet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the coaches, like the advisors, bring a lot of real world experience and a lot of background to it. And I personally continued on as a mentor in FI for 3 years because I learned so much from the other coaches. And so my coaching gets better because of the other people in that network. And, you had 200 advisors and mentors up on that initial screen. That's a really good network. Like, if you guys dive in and look at the mentor page on the website, you can see it's a way to access a very strong network of mentors from a very diverse background. So absolutely, I think FI's program fee is worth it. But on that point, all of these accelerator programs charge some kind of program fee. They have to cover their operating costs. And so in our case, there was an equity investment, and then they took a percentage of that, or a portion of that, for their program management fee. And I think Antler is the same, right? And also, similar to FI, Antler has a stepped program, doesn't it? Like, you don't know how much equity you'll get until you hit certain milestones. Is that correct?
It's more like do the pre-seed investments, and they help you all the way to get your seed investments, and they will do the follow investment during the seed and later stages. So it's more like this. But in the process, they will hold your hands and help you to get attention to, because they have global networks. They will bring their friend, like investors, partners from the global networks to see, and they actually evaluate the startup on the same level or same category. So there's no difference from a startup from Japan. They evaluate it at the same levels.
All right. So any startup founders here, would like to a little bit tap into the difficulties that you guys face in the programs. You can be brutally honest with me. They could say anything about our program, right? So I would like to face with the real feedbacks here. That's why we welcome you here, right? Starting from Evan. So what are the difficulties that you have faced in the Alchemist program?
Well, for us, it was class 1. And so, there were difficulties on both sides, both the cohort members and then, the Alchemist management team. They were still, finding the correct fit and procedures and how everything should be structured. And the biggest problem that we had is that we entered the program with a Japanese kabushiki gaisha, or KK entity, and that was really the wrong structure to take full advantage of the Alchemist program, because it's a 3-month Japan program followed by a 6-month US program. And so the intention is to really help Japanese startups to go global. And so the initial investment, it was really structured better with a Delaware C Corp. And so after getting accepted into the program and, starting in week 1, we realized we had to create a C Corp. Now, fortunately, in the US, creating the Delaware C Corp entity, the necessary bank account, getting legal counsel, the entire process took about 1/20th of the time it took to do that in Japan. When we first created the Japanese corporation, that was a several-month process. We did everything in 10 days, created the necessary entity, created, the necessary bank accounts, and received the equity investment from Alchemist in about 10 business days. So kudos to the US for using digital technology to actually get things done. Hint, hint, Japan, catch up. But it was hard because we got into the program, but then we couldn't actually receive the equity. And so we couldn't start executing. We couldn't actually run the next dev cycle that we needed to do and things like that. And we were delayed. It took some time to get all of that in place. That wasn't the fault of Alchemist, but it was a good learning that the Alchemist team learned through that process, that they should recommend that their cohort members have the C Corp. Really, it is the preferred entity. And kind of a footnote on that is, as we've been doing our fundraising and talking to Japanese VCs, we haven't found any that wanted us to have the KK, the Japanese entity. All Japanese VCs that we've talked to have been comfortable with the Delaware C Corp. and they understand that we're going, expanding globally, it makes sense. So initially, we created the KK to make Japanese VCs more comfortable with the investment. It turned out it wasn't necessary.
Okay, difficulties, Xiaoxi. First, FI difficulties, then Antler.
Yeah. Actually, I want to talk about my experience with FI. The first day, the first event I attend, you guys asked me to do like a 1-minute pitch. Well, I have to say, actually, I do more things than a lot of funders when I join the FI programs. But because I already do a lot of things, it's very hard for me to shrink all my experience into 1 minute. So actually, I do pretty bad at the first pitch because I'm the first one who do the pitch. I believe I got like the score was like 5 in total. I got 2-1 and 1-2, I believe, if I remember correctly. So on the other side, the guy who has only ideas got 5 or even 4s. So and I know you guys are like dropping people in the middle of the class because of the poor grade. So I feel very stressful. And you guys actually talked to me was like, don't worry about it. Like you just don't follow the pattern of 1-minute pitch. And when we go to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, even 10 minutes, because you have actually doing things, you have traction, you have business plans and stuff, those will go to there. And the people who only have ideas will feel short on that part. And I really feel confidence and practice 1-minute pitch as well. So it's win-win for us. But still, I still remember that at the beginning of stage that I was very bad at it. And also one tips, go to the accelerators who actually will drop people in the process, because that will give you pressure to focus on the programs. Because it's not about getting nice, it's not getting comfortable, it's getting pressures from the program that push you forward always.
Yeah, I should have mentioned this. We have a dropout system. Around 70% of the people who enroll the program cannot make it. That's by design. It's worth to mention that our program has. Do the current programs you guys have dropout system like Enter? Yes or no?
Yes, I believe about 70 people actually join the Enter program. Only 7 get like selected, so something like similar to that.
Alchemist, and one reason why we chose the program, has a very good system of vetting startups that apply. It's a very diverse team, a global team, that evaluates the startup idea and understands, let's say, market movements, market evolutions, and where that startup is going to fit into the ecosystem better than the founders often do themselves. That was my experience. I didn't know that agentic AI was going to take off and boom to the point where it's a household term today. So 6 months ago, I wasn't describing what we do as agentic AI. I didn't think people would understand that concept yet. But Alchemist knew that was coming. And I think that's one of the reasons why they passed us, allowed us into the program. I think there were almost 200 applicants and only 9 companies got in. I haven't heard of any dropouts through the Alchemist program because of that initial vetting process, which I think is extremely. So I think if you were to drop out of the program, it would probably be a voluntary, self-selection out of the program. I wanted to add one thing.
Sure.
You reminded me when you talked about pitching. The purpose of an accelerator is to hone your pitch, to really, really craft your narrative in a cohesive way so that when you get to demo day, which is graduation day, you're able to raise funds. The purpose is to accelerate your business plan and hone it to the point where it is crystal clear. As a mentor for 3 years at FI and as a general advisor to startups, I've probably reviewed, hundreds of pitch decks. I've been a judge in pitch contests. Yeah. And I think I can give pretty good advice to other startups on their pitch. And I found it impossible to do for myself. Right. I could not get our pitch correct. And I had to revise that thing. I lost count at like 150 revisions. And it was really frustrating because I just could not get a clear narrative because I was too close to it. And also, and this is a bit of the downside of these programs, there are diverse coaches and I got a lot of conflicting advice. A lot of people would say, do this. And then the next coach would say almost the complete opposite. But that was a very, very fine calibration process to get the narrative exactly, precisely clear for a very wide audience. Because I was the one who delivered the pitch out of our team, out of our 3 co-founders, for me, that is about 90% of my memory of the program, was redoing the pitch over and over and over again. And then you have to deliver it in a time window. In Alchemist, it was 4 minutes, precisely. You cannot go over. And there's simultaneous translation, so you can't change the script. You have to remember it exactly. I haven't done so much rehearsal since I was in junior high school drama club. But it really did get, I think, a finely crafted pitch, which so far has been relating pretty well. People understand the narrative pretty well now.
Yeah, so some funders thinks that they always come to us in our program and they ask like, is it all about the pitch, right? Actually, it's not, because the pitch makes you like work on the each most important items of your company that needs to be developed and proven, right? So validation. So each slide actually needs to communicate very well. So it gives a really good signal to the investor that you really understand what you're doing in each slide. Let's say if it is a problem slide, did you nail down your problem slide or not? Or what is the product? So if there is no product here, what you gonna put it there, right? So an entire narrative, storyline. Did you really understand what your customer's problem are? Did you really understand the solution, what could be, and things like that? So this question comes to us a lot, so it was a good point to tap into. And one more thing is like FI has a 3 type of pitch, which is 1 minute pitch, which is very challenging. It's everybody fails. Like by default, I still cannot get it done my own pitch. Yeah, you're right. I would definitely join an FI by myself right now after having a ton of experiences, right? But still would definitely join. It's not the same as, it's just like a sterile environment. The doctor, if you're a doctor, you would go to doctor if you're sick, because that person, even though in the same specialist, you would still someone else needs to check into you, right? So we have 1 minute pitch and 3 minutes pitch with slides. So 1 minute pitch don't have any slide. So you need to convey entire meaning without any slide, without anything, and you need to get yes. So do you know how hard it is, like making the sales without showing any material? Like try to sell this ginger ale without showing it, just verbally. It's hard. It is really hard. But that's by design. We want you to fail on the stage, so you can get that stress out. You can see what you need to improve it. And also in the 5 minute pitch with slides also we have, right?
How much money you actually need in order to grow the business, right? I think that's
never
so
enough.
How did you both decided how much you need in equity, and how did you basically knew that this would be enough, or what did you do when you noticed that, it's not enough?
Good one, yeah.
The more is the better. Like for the short answer, the long answer was like know your limits. Like if you want to a startup, that means at least you are the expert in that particular industry for somehow. As experts, you must know like what's the basic cost of running such a business of something. So and then you will know like I can. Like at least for myself, I can have it this month. I can get some money from bank for this month, and with some friends and families, I can get this. Or this is my baseline. Can last me for a year and a half or 2 years. So that was the baseline you run.
In our case, it was a relatively complex matrix of looking at the offer, the terms that were provided, and really more than anything, the valuation cap, because that set, essentially the terms for the initial round. Now, it was an equity investment on a convertible note, so not a priced round, but the valuation cap essentially set expectations for the round. In our case, the equity was not enough to really do much more than cover the 3 months of the initial program. We structured it in such a way that we could give ourselves 9 months of runway using that, because we're in the situation where the 3 co-founders don't have to draw a salary from the startup. And this is a bit of an advice, maybe a tip, if you go through these programs, retain 6 minimum, preferably 9 or even up to 18 months of runway to keep the lights on. To keep your servers running, or if you're a hardware startup, keep whatever it is, developing the next widget. Because that increases your valuation from the perspective of your first round investors. So in our case, the equity was never enough, but it was structured in such a way that it wouldn't harm subsequent rounds. It got us the ability to focus on the 3 months of the Accelerator program and learn a lot from the coaching, to be able to participate in person during that period. But that was it, and that was the only expectation. We didn't consider it really a funding round in order we didn't have the expectation, and I don't think anybody should, that going to an accelerator is going to allow you to run your next dev cycles or get the product to the next level. The intention of an accelerator, I heard expressed best by, I think Gary Tan said this, for Y Combinator, we cover the cost of living for 3 months, for the duration of the program. And that's it. And that should really be the only expectation. But they also give you the platform to launch into a big fundraising event on demo day. And then if you utilize the toolkit they provide well enough, you win enough equity in the next round.
And one thing that I want to add about the small things is that some accelerator, for example, Enter, they give you like small perks that you can use when you're in the residencies. So we got tons of AWS credit and tons of ChatGPT credits. So when we use the AWS and ChatGPT APIs, we don't have to pay at all. So we can run our software with very low cost. And that was one way to save money for startups. You have to know how to control your cost.
Oh, I forgot. That was totally a deciding factor. I think we have already leveraged something like $30,000 worth of compute credits and different software programs. The potential upside is something like $100,000.
So in your pitch, were you focused mostly on VCs, or you're pitching also to customers?
But no, the target of the pitch is fundraising. And so the target is 4 minutes to craft a narrative that investors will be inspired by, believe in, and want to learn more. But it's only 4 minutes, so Alchemist calls it the movie trailer. And you should inspire people to want to come and watch the whole movie. So the goal is to get them to book a meeting with you to learn more.
For us, the Antler pitch was, because Antler, by the end of the day, they are kind of investors. So by the end of the program, you will pitch 10 minutes in front of the IC. The IC board will be formed by Antler from global Antler office, either from Singapore or from US or from EUs. They will join the board. So they make sure all Antler graduates have the same levels. VC pitch. But for Fundraise Studio, on the other hand, well, we focus on VC pitch, of course, because we want to secure a fund. But on the other side, we will always go through some small details as well. So you can modify your pitch in a way to like decrease some slide or increase some information, enhance some information, to turn that into a sales pitch or even a partnership pitch in that matters, if you want to partner with some other companies.
I think with FA, a lot of it is inspiring potential team members to join. A lot of people join FI to find co-founders.
Yeah. Antler also has a similar function, right?
Yes, at Enter, actually, I know a lot of people who actually background of engineers. They go there to find their business partner, or business partner, they have business ideas, but they don't have the coding capabilities. So they go there to find their like coder partners. Some of our graduates, I believe there are at least two of them, this combination, or they're foreigners, they want to find the local Japanese people to work together, something like that. You cannot build a startup by yourself. That's absolutely not possible. You have to have a co-founder. So that was a key there.
So we do events and additional programs for co-founder matching and further support when you join our program. Any other questions? Anything that you're curious about an accelerator funding?
Okay, so I know that right now there's quite a lot of accelerators around the world and whatever. And I wanted to know, how do you decide to which accelerator to apply, how to understand where there's a good fit?
Yeah, so I think we a little bit tap into today's talk with this, but Evan and Xiaoxi, so would you like to approach it different maybe?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the key points was one of the reasons that we joined Accelerator was getting certification or recognitions that you want to be recognized as like a famous graduate from a famous accelerator. So, the name, of course, is a very big influence. On the other side was the matching of the accelerator. Of course, if you're like in medical industry, you shouldn't join a sustainable accelerator, that for sure. But I would say there are different stage of the accelerator. If you go to the like day 01, you shouldn't join the other one. You should focus on more advanced or more narrow, like for example, about go-to-market strategy one, or joining about a specific overseas marketing, targeting one. That was the strategy you're going to approach. But for the first time founders who never built a business before, I always suggest them to join like a day 1 or day 0 accelerator, because I never met anyone who can like build a company without learning. Because a lot of people, they think they can just build a company. That's not the story. Building a company, I have an idea, is entirely different stories. So you have to learn something about how to run a company. So, and I think join day 1 or day 0, to be say, accelerator is very helpful for the one who don't have experience to running companies.
So every accelerator has a different investment thesis, a different focus. And I think it's very important to research the accelerator to find one that's the correct fit for you. In our case with the Alchemist Accelerator, it was their focus on B2B enterprise software. But then we researched their alumni, companies who had been through the program, and their growth rate afterwards. And we saw a lot of success stories, a lot of subsequent funding rounds, a lot of good growth, and looked through the forums on Reddit and places like that to see the general sentiment, and it was very positive, everybody who'd been through the program. There were, of course, some detractors, but if you dove into their stories, it gave you some context, and I personally discredited most of those detractors, and really when I dug into it, only found positives. But the reason for joining an accelerator at that stage, let's say, and I would say Antler, Alchemist, Techstars, 500 Global, Plug and Play, they are all at that larger equity, somewhat later stage, let's say, later stage, whereas FI is very early stage and has tough requirements once you get in, but is maybe a little bit easier to get into initially. So these recent JETRO-backed startups, they come, first of all, with that JETRO backing. So there's a government connection, there's recognition. In the Japanese market, that's essential. You can't win large Japanese corporations without some connection. Almost all of the accelerators are backed by JETRO plus a partner. In our case, it was Mitsubishi Estate. Antler, I think, is also backed by a real estate company. Most of them are, actually, because the real estate companies, I think, want to sell office space to the successful startups as they grow. Makes sense. But those connections are valuable. Mitsubishi, of course, is a massive corporation, and so we can ask for referrals here and there. JETRO can give us referrals here and there. It gives us a foothold into the Japanese market, as in our case, all 3 co-founders, although we've all lived in Japan for a long time, we're not native Japanese. And so it helps us overcome some of the foreign perception, right? So that was a deciding factor as well. And then when you're evaluating an accelerator, I think the top criteria are the alumni network, the coaches, essentially the database that they create of extremely valuable contacts and potential to give you referrals. And then, how much can they invest, and the perks. Everybody talks about, these perks, these credits that you get that they've negotiated with various partners. That's very valuable. And then finally, I think, like we did, look at the alumni, the graduates, and their trajectory after that. Did they get accelerated? You can see, their growth path afterwards and the success rate of the startups who go through one of these accelerators. And I think decide based on that.
You might not be able to see in our portfolio easily because as the nature of our program is pretty early stage focus, like extremely early stage focus. But that's a good way of evaluating accelerators for sure. But one of the important thing to mention there is you shouldn't choose an accelerator program just because it's so popular or it has a huge brand or something like this. Because for example, Y Combinator is extremely popular today, but when something is getting so much popular, or if it is not that much easier to get inside of the program, actually, the acceptance becomes much more tighter and more. But in our case, it's also quite big and popular. But it's much more inclusive because we have programs across the world. And I think one of the important criteria there is like, does this accelerator program has a good roots in your local region? So are they using the local resources and local network and so on? That's very important. In our case, it's definitely global, but we're at the same time hyper-local. We're using all the resources here. And thanks for bringing up. So most of the programs there was just brought up by corporates or government support. In our case, we didn't actually. We bring it our own resources here because this is their partnership agreement, the FI partnership agreement to bring here. So they find out that would be a nice fit. So, and we've been training. So similar type of program actually, but internal program. It was so tough. We choose and run the program here. Everything is very much bootstrap at FI. So which also it helps you to be bootstrap and be resource efficient and get succeed by this way. That's why it's pretty useful.
I'm curious about more of the day-to-day processes in the Accelerator program. So you guys talk about how you work on your pitch and all this other stuff, but you said it takes like 3 months. I mean, so what exactly do you do like day-to-day? How much time do you spend with mentors? What type of activities do you do? I'm just curious about the actual...
Entry level is at the beginning week, you have to be there every day. Like they have like pitch preparation on the morning. And
in person, right?
Full time. Preparation about maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then you do the checkout. So they have to vet you once to make sure you have if you are not passing the checkout, you're dropped. So every time, once you pass the checkout, you don't have to be there in person. And then they have events, and they will hold like weekly meetings to make sure that you are doing everything is correct.
Alchemist was every day for the first week, and then about 3 times a week after that in person. Somewhat optional, and we attended with 2 out of 3 co-founders for pretty much all of the sessions. We traded off a little bit if there was a particular focus, more CEO focused or sales track focused for myself. And what that looked like was, a lot of pitch refinement, but also a lot of coaching on how to refine the go-to-market process, how to adjust our thinking to that of investors, and then how to start running the actual sales process. The Alchemist program comes with a CEO coach, an overall business coach, and a sales coach. Different tracks, different types of advice tailored to different go-to-market strategies and levels. And through the program, that the advice cumulatively builds in modules similar to like a university curriculum. All of it is learn and display your knowledge, similar to a university program where you've attended lectures, now show what you know. And some of those were sort of quiz or spot checks, like, okay, stand up, it's time for your 1-minute pitch. And then you get evaluated on that. And so there was pressure, there was a stage fright component, there was a peer review component, and that helped a lot. In the later stages, the peer review became extremely helpful as our cohort members learned the methodology and started to evaluate, critique, and encourage each other. Our class in Alchemist Japan, class 1, was incredibly close, and we still communicate on almost a daily basis and help each other, refer investors to each other, refine each other's pitches, etc. So it becomes a lot of day-to-day interaction with your cohort mates as you all learn the methodology and start to put it into practice day-to-day.
So in our case, it's an online program. So because we want to be as inclusive as possible, we have people joining from all around Japan or also internationally, actually. So roughly 10% join internationally. Also from Korea and Taiwan and all the other countries that we represent. and it's part-time, so you need like around 20 hours per week you need to commit, so you can actually balance between your full-time job or classroom if you're a student. And around 40 mentors you work together closely during the program, but we have weekly sprints. Every week we have one session. You could also book as much as you want if their schedule align with you, the mentors, weekly mentors. Every week you have 3 mentors, so you can also book office hours, everything online. So English after 6 p.m., around 40 mentors in 3 months, you work closely. And every week, we have total of 200 different deliverables that comes with the aggressive weekly sprints that needs to be complete within the 7 days until the next session. So we have like a bit distributed approach on the acceleration process. And that allows us to be the first pull a lot of people into the cohort and drop us slowly if they are not performing very well. So as you can see, it's a bit different. That's why it allows us to be that much global. So one of the good side of the FI is actually the network. That when you join everywhere in the world, when you go anywhere in the world, literally, over 100 countries, so you will be able to see someone, a friend, and who can support you in that country. So that's amazing power, honestly. Being an alumni, or if you're not even an alumni, you could become a mentor. If you have a specialty, you can apply for it too. Sometimes founders who graduate from our programs also become a mentor, going back and contribute. That culture also needs to be settled down in Japan as well. So you see, these are the differences, different type of program, but we don't provide a funding term, right? That's a different thing. But what we do is we create exposure as much as we can during the program and after the program, with the support programs as well. Those support programs are free after graduation, so that allows you to get exposure as much VCs and investors as possible. And one more thing is, we also have an accelerator program for investors, right? So all the entire deals is introduced by them as a funnel in them. Plus, we have over 10,000 investors in our network. Recently, we hit that mark. We actively introduce them, but we won't be working for you exclusively to go out and pitch and introduce an investor. So that we have this cohort-based, pool-based introduction system. Let it, market decide. A bit different model, I would say. So, okay, let's wrap this up. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was pretty insightful. One more thing. We are building an ecosystem across the world and here in Japan as well. We are one of the earliest international program throughout the year, English-speaking program. So we need support from you guys. So we need to collaborate. We need partners who can support. Because what we are doing here is you can't only explain with the economic terms. We advocate entrepreneurship and we promote entrepreneurship. So we try to solve the important problems in the world with entrepreneurship because it's economically viable way. So we really rely on your support. So this is a kind of community effort that we do. If you could support us on, you can introduce someone, you can subscribe, or you can give a like at least to our post on LinkedIn. You can connect with us, suggest someone. That will be extremely appreciated, Yeah, so thanks so much everyone for joining. That concludes the session. Thanks so much, Evan and Sharshi, for joining and sharing insights.